Are you predictable? Do you always do what you've always done? Or do you just like what's familiar? Hey everyone, Mike Sweet here from mikesweet.co.uk, giving you the edge in life and business with NLP and psychology. Today we're going to talk all about why we like what is familiar. And when you think about it, so much of what we do, I talk about this often, is we have patterns. Our whole life is ingrained with patterns. You know, we do what we've always done, and we like what's familiar. Think about the food you eat. You probably eat similar meals one week to the next. You do similar activities. It's very hard for us as a species to create change. But think about that. Think about the issue with why we like what's familiar. Because when you're trying to create change, as I think it was Albert Einstein said, if you do what you've always done, you'll get what you've always got. Which doesn't match up with getting what you want if you like what's familiar. This is why it's so easy to carry on running with old programs, old thoughts, old actions, old beliefs. If you think about that from a growth perspective or an evolutionary perspective, if whatever you did yesterday was good enough to keep you here, just do the same. Just run the same pattern. See, it allows us to run unconsciously without giving a thought to what we're going to eat, what we're going to wear, what we're going to do, how we're going to drive to work, how we're going to answer the phone. Our whole lives are ingrained with patterns. Some good, some not so. So now you know that we like what's familiar, and you probably knew that anyway. How do you use it? So let's think about this from an influence point of view, or a persuasion or a conversational point of view, how you really begin to connect with someone, so create a real heightened level of rapport. Now, familiarity and similarity go hand in hand. They're quite familiar. So let's think about that. Whenever you want to interact with someone, to use this principle, you'd find a level of familiarity. It could be a sports team. You know, men love talking about what's your favourite team, and I'll find out about. And if the teams don't match, they'll talk about a certain game that it hasn't got either of their teams in, to try and find common ground on that. You see, because when you have this commonality, you have familiarity. When you have familiarity, you'll create a connection, a common ground to start from. So it really can be used to your advantage. Now, it can be used in so many ways. You know, what you like to wear, what you like to eat. I've noticed you have an office in Hong Kong. My wife's from Hong Kong. Oh, that's interesting. See, you create that connection, you bridge that gap, because when people have that connection of familiarity and similarity, it's far easier to create a heightened level of rapport. Think about when two people meet. Perhaps for the first time, the connection isn't so great. And the second time or the third time, think about, going to pick the kids up from school initially in the new year at a new school. Their parents don't really talk because they've got their familiar groups. But when that face keeps coming, that new face, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times, what becomes familiar is the new person. So then they're accepted in, which is why it can be easier to make a connection once you've seen someone 5, 6, 7 or 8 times, because you talk about seeing each other. The connection, the familiarity, is the fact that you haven't spoken, but you have seen each other at the gym or at the chip shop or wherever that may be. The fact is, we like what's familiar, and we'll connect with what we know, which is why we like it. So from a personal point of view, what do you need to look out for? As I mentioned, this show isn't about you becoming persuasive and influential and directing people and having control, but it's about understanding this stuff exists and that other people will be using it on you. So whenever you get stopped in the street or someone knocks your door and you find that they create a level of familiarity very quickly, notice that judgment. Notice how more open you become, and just pause for a moment and question that, because perhaps they're finding familiar ground, similar ground, so you do interact and you do drop your guard because they are able to create that level of rapport. Just think about that for a moment. Now, liking what's familiar and similarity go hand in hand whenever you're talking about subjects and topics and items and to-dos and lots of things. But also, the real big piece of this from an influence point of view is we like people who are like us. who act the same way, whose voice is typically the same volume, they speak at the same pace, the same tonality. If we like what's familiar, it also means that we like people like us. So a great way to create connection and to help fast track people's perception of you is notice a person's body language. Now, I mentioned this before in the NLP video about matching and mirroring. And of course, there are certain ways to do that and not to do that. But little subtle similarity. Now, I'm naturally a very, very fast talker. So if I meet someone who is a very slow and considered talker, then it's beneficial if I'd like to create rapport with them that I slow everything that I say. It helps them understand me and connect with me differently. You see, it could be certain ways people move their head, the way they hold their body. Whatever it is, people like what's familiar. People like similar. So notice, if you want to create a heightened level of connection with people, whether it's for dating, whether it's for finding new love, whether it's for making new friends, being more accepted on a job interview, buying a new car, selling a car, whatever that may be, this is a great way for you to really connect with the other person. We like what's familiar. Notice what someone else is like and see how you can make that similar. So I hope you've enjoyed what you've watched today. Hope you've received some value from doing so. Remember, please do like, please do share, please do comment. And you can also connect with me on social media at Mike C Sweet. So please do. Let's get connected. Speak soon. Bye for now.